So thanks for coming. So the presentation is actually not at all technical like it was with Klaus or Peter. I was asked actually to try to explain the role of Kamailio in the picture of using asterisks. So I try to do my best to come with an idea of doing that because I'm an engineer. I have a bit of experience with Kamailio since 2002. So explaining it might not be that easy in the telephony terms. So it's more about figuring out what you could do with Kamailio. Who is this guy? So now we are in the world of telephony. And here we are asterisks. So what is asterisks in telephony, IP telephony? It's actually the engine routing the calls and doing the management of the media and all this cool application that you can have with it. So what is the central element for asterisks from the perspective of telephony? It's the call. Now we have this new project that you just learned about it, Kamailio, and many people think it's a cool application that you could use together with asterisks. So what is this Kamailio? It's a SIP signaling routing engine. And the very important word here is signaling. So we don't handle media at all. We have a helper application that we use for relaying media for the purpose of helping NAT traversal. But we have a different approach. We don't really look at voice application only, which is the call. We have a different design. So we started like that from the beginning, back in 2001, 2002. So the central element for our application, we made it to be you, actually. Why that? It's because implicitly, Kamailio does only one thing, and we are very good at that one. We don't do nothing implicitly. So practically, if you don't tell Kamailio do something, we'll just drop the packets. So if you saw that's a joke, no, it's not a joke. We don't really do anything if you don't specify it in the config file. That's really important from the perspective of security, because we don't have implicit routes. If you don't tell send it there, after you are sure it was authenticated, is not coming from a malicious user whatsoever, we don't route it out of our application. So trying to explain it better. So now imagine if telephony was transportation, because it's a bit easier to present in a visual way. So what you would like to have, like, run if you do kind of transportation business. This one looks good, right? Or maybe you would like to have such one, or a different kind of transportation, or even, beyond the limits here. So now, any of this one can be yours, but not from the perspective of riding them. It's from the perspective of engineering them. So now, actually, you can see what Kamailio provides you. A lot of components that you have actually to put together and build what you need to have out there. We are not telephony-centric. So for us, telephony is just a sequence of packets. We do a lot of instant messaging, presence, file transfer. You can do also desktop sharing. We are not a telephony engine from that perspective. So you have to keep it strong in your head that you are not the driver of an engine. You are actually the one that was engineering it with Kamailio. Because if you don't have the proper knowledge for it, actually the result of putting this together can be, something more eco-friendly, I would say, but might not be something that you would be proud of it. So it's still moving, but not really giving a strong value. On the other hand, if you really understand what we provide you, and you are able to put all these pieces together, you can get amazing things. So something that nobody else has around. So have in mind, it's all about you. So now the biggest problem is getting started with it. So what would be needed for you to get into Kamailio? Because as Klaus said, and I'll have it, we have a lot of extension there. And of course, you need to play a lot of it. But for starting, it's really important to focus on like 3 things. The first one is you need an excellent knowledge of SIP. So you have to be familiar with the protocol. You must understand what's a call. It's an invite. You authenticate. Then what's a re-invite, putting on hold, how I route it. I have route headers. I have via headers, routing back and forth. So knowing SIP is very important. Once you are sure of that, be sure that actually you know SIP very well, because this is all you need to get it started. So actually the learning curve with Kamailio, and I'm doing a lot of trainings, and I'm with the project from very early beginning, and I'm the oldest right now, it's more like exponential. Having knowledge of SIP and putting that knowledge in your mind for the business logic and routing logic is really important. So it gets you quite high in the knowledge line. And then it helps quite a lot having some programming background, because our config file, it's actually more like an imperative language, something like combination shell C kind of language, if condition, while statements, and so on and so forth. And of course, a lot of practicing, because we are a lot also in customization. You need special feature that nobody else can provide you, and you cannot really use higher APIs like Asterisk for telephony, because you get events in Asterisk when a call happens. With Kamailio, you get events when we receive some bit from the network, and that's it. Message that could be a request, a reply, or something else. So yeah, some people are afraid because the beginning it's very, very slow. People are coming from telephony, they expect that, okay, how I route the call? And well, you don't route the call. You route the signaling of that call, and you have to do it for each packet. So back to real-time communication and summarizing, Kamailio is not about call. It's actually about connecting things. It's used quite a lot for machine-to-machine communication, notification, instant messaging, presence, not as much as I would like, but with SIP, due to complexity of the specs, but we have very good presence implementation. So with also instant messaging, file transfer, we can do contact list management, which you are familiar, if you would be familiar with the term, it's XCAP protocol. Monitoring system, like sending notifications, supervising, and getting information like from sensors, and so on and so forth. Typical cases with Asterisk. Load balancer, probably it's the most used out there. We have a couple of options, so it's one of the problem we sometimes have. People are coming to our community and they ask which one I should use for load balancing. And we have a couple of options, like dispatcher can do it, carrier route can do it. You can actually build it only with a configuration file language. We don't really need a module. If you like to do just round robin, you can easily do it only with our language structure. Then for each of these, let's say, functionalities, you may find a couple of options out there, like authentication against database, authentication against radius, and things like that. Allocation or register server, it's also popular. Typically, Asterisk boxes are getting more and more lines connected. And then one situation or one option to scale is you offload, as Klaus said before, if you attended the talk, offload signaling processing out of Asterisk and let Asterisk do his media server job, IVR, transcoding, conferencing. So Kamailio will do this authentication, not traversal hacks around like keep alives, changing the contact header, eventually doing bridging between public internet and private network. If you prefer to run Asterisk on private and be a bit more secure, we can do gateway at the transport layer. We support and we have really good implementation on TCP, TLS, even SCTP. I'm not saying about UDP, which is by default. And all of them are very scalable, and all of them are actually asynchronous. So TCP and TLS, we have asynchronous implementation. Is no blocking at the transport layer. So we support really huge amount of traffic on these transport layers. We can be like a security guardian to your VoIP network because we have the power of processing a lot of traffic, good traffic or bad traffic. Even you have like a small Asterisk user base on your instance, out there are a couple of million hackers ready to steal some minutes from you. So no matter you expect 100 good phones connecting to you, could be 1 million guys just trying to steal some minutes, call Nigeria or Cuba or what's so out there very expensive. We are also very good at rerouting in case of failure. So if you have a farm of gateways, you practically use Kamailio as the node before it and using either like load balancing policy or list cost routing policy. You can have a list of next node addresses ordered by preference. Could be cost, could be, I don't know, available resources there. And if the first node is not responding, then we can reroute to the next one until one is responding or none of them. Or we can do actually parallel forking to all of the next nodes. And as soon as we get a response from one, we cancel all the other branches. So we can do serial and parallel forking from this point of view. As a history of the project, it was quite a bit of drama around it. So origin of the project, it's in research in a research institute in Berlin, Germany, back in 2001, 2002, as I said, with the initial name of the project, SIP Express Router, short name SER. And then when the project became very popular, practically Institute made a spin-off, and that spin-off company was acquired by Tekelec. I don't know if you are aware of Tekelec. They used to be a vendor for big mobile operators, so you couldn't get anything if you didn't pay like $500,000 or something like that. Recently, they were bought by Oracle. So Tekelec buys this company, and it was clear they had no intention to continue with the open source side. So some developers go to Tekelec, some developers try to continue with the open source, some frictions there, so we create OpenSCR, which becomes the famous one in about 3 years. SCR was still like an open source, but nobody was really like supporting it from commercial point of view. They did some development, actually. So we get a trouble on a trademark. As you see, we used to use OpenSCR, capitalized SCR, and we get this company from US that at that time they owned SCR.com, claiming we infringed the trademark. They had a trademark on SCR, and they said we suggest it's open source version of their product. So now we have either to dispute it in court, and it's not cheap doing that in US, and most of our developer or loyal users, like power users, are in Europe. So we decided to rename it. It's not easy to find a domain and find also a word that is not trademarked these days. So I imagine everyone has gone or thinks, or it's sure that this process is not something that's simple. So finally, we agree on a name, and we rename it to Kamailio. Another event happened just after the name, a fork, and quite a lot of confusion. Put together that we discussed with Ser and merged back actually with Ser, but we made a decision this year that we will continue with Kamailio name because we are sure it's free of trademarks. That US company that claimed we infringed the trademark has vanished, but there is still a trademark on SCR words, so we don't want to get there back and forth. So from our point of view, Kamailio, it's not a bad name. It's actually a Hawaiian word, which means to converse, so the verb for having a conversation, which is a bit related to what we actually do, real-time communication, voice, instant messaging, presence. So now we are practically back with SIP Express router. SIP Express router as a project no longer exists, so it's all integrated back in Kamailio. As I said, they had some development and quite good one, including the asynchronous TLS and good implementation of the SCTP was done actually by SER developers. The architecture, it's also special. We have the core of the application, which doesn't really provide good benefits from the point of view of having a business on top of that, and then we have the modules. Some of the modules can give the same functionality, as I said, least code routing, couple of options, load balancing, and so on and so forth. So if you think of it, practically we have core from the perspective of like a Swedish buffet. I'm sure you are familiar with that. Core is the plate, an empty plate. It's useful. Without it, you cannot eat. But actually, if you want to eat, and maybe you are a vegetarian, so that would be like lightweight load balancer. You get some salad, and you are set. If you need something serious, a presence server, an IMS server, you load the steaks, right? And you can put it there. But this architecture actually allowed us to be very stable because we don't have many people interested in going to the core, where is the parser, some memory manager, some locking manager, you know, all these kind of functionalities everyone needs, but doesn't really give you any pleasure to work with. Fortunately, some guys in our team are very happy doing only that part, and I can explain if you would like to hear more at our booth. So really we have a lot of features I just put here. I don't want to go through all of them. We have this custom programming-like language, which is our configuration file language. We started with that one from the beginning. We were at the Networking Research Institute, so none of the developers had any telephony background. We were all network communication programmers. So we started with this logical language from the beginning, and you see it's actually where everyone goes these days, using some programming language to customize their routing as they need. So quite a lot of feature if you want to ask approaches at the booth 19. We support quite a lot of backends, SQL backends, MySQL, Postgres, including SQLite. Kamailio runs a lot on embedded devices, and Peter had a demo with a Raspberry Pi. We have also support for NoSQL, Redis and Cassandra are there. As I said, good transport lane implementation with asynchronous TCP, TLS, traffic shaping. Klaus did some demos. We have a graphical user interface for administration. It's called Cyremis, and some from command line. It's CERCMD and CAMCTL. So we have also a DNS caching system that could be interested. It's practically for doing DNS-based load balancer and DNS-based failover, because we have to cache the result and try the next one if you do routing based on DNS, not on our internal modules. We are also having a lot of options for you to build a very secure system, from encryption, starting with TLS, to protect against attacks, detect them, parse the SIM message and be sure it's well formatted so you don't send it to the next hop and they discover it's something broken. In the last year, so this year and maybe half of the previous year, I summarize here what we did with the last two releases. So maybe from the release point of view, it's also important. We are really focused on providing stable releases and maintaining them for quite a long time. So we maintain two stable branches. At this moment, it's 3.3 and 4.0. 4.1, it's coming. Now we are in the testing phase, starting with this week. So it's going to be out like mid of November or a bit after we are sure we tested it very well. After that, we will maintain 4.0 and 4.1. Overall, it's going to be like 2 years, more or less, for each release that you are sure you get updates. Nobody stops that. Other developers, even now, some people put code into 3.2, but we are not really making new packages. You can use the repository as you want. This is what we are going to have new in next release. So this is in developer. We have a prepaid. We have quite a lot of interactive debugger, so you can run step by step our config file. Some authentication related to WebRTC, compression using gzip, inflate, deflate algorithm. So you can actually go below the UDP MTU. In some cases, it's quite important. You already see a demo here, but if you haven't been in the previous presentation, you can come to our booth and see the WebRTC to classic SIP VoIP gateway using only Kamailio and a media proxy, so no back-to-back user agent. Besides that, what I actually value, and I was staying with this project so long, is that we actually have a really nice environment around the project. If you try to get to a couple of our individuals and you look what they did in the past, you could be amazing. So we have developers that were actually like CTO level of large telecoms, now just retired and doing maybe something for fun. But there are really good engineers involved in the project, and we are really happy that we got really big companies acknowledging and being involved in the project and being proud of that. Like 1&1 in Germany, they have like 5 million. They are the second telecom. They have a man in our management team. They have like 5 developers writing code. So a lot of code is coming from rather big companies. We do have a friendly community. You can ask others that in case you don't trust me or try it yourself. We have now a distributed management, and some people like it, so there is no longer a big company. After the Fraunhofer focus, the research institute gave up of the IPR. There was no big entity behind the project. So even resources of the project are really distributed. Like the server itself, it's Muddy, the company from there. The domain, it's with me, which I'm in Berlin. A backup, it's with a company from Germany, different than me. Management itself is made of individuals from 11 companies, or right now from different countries. It's one from US as well. Having a background from research, we do have a lot of innovation, and we keep doing with that. We are among the first having WebRTC implementation, for example, or those simple presence extension again. I think we are the first one. At that time, it was OpenSCR name that we brought it out. And we focus quite a lot of resources on quality and having a stable environment for an application, but as well as evolution development. You can check these statistics, Ochlog project. You can look there. They track most of the open source projects out there. So if you just want to start writing Kamailio from scratch, you should hurry up. You need like 221 person years to do it, so you will have to write quite fast. We have like stable development, as you can see down. It's continuous and quite high number of contributions. According to this tracking project, we are among first 2% of open source projects out there by activity and community of contributions. We are now having actually our own event. So we had the first edition in April in Berlin. Here is a picture of that event, Peter speaking and having a similar presentation there. Many were here as well, and they were present there. Will be more or less in the same range of time next year, spring, end of spring. In Berlin, Germany, we have nice facility from the Research Institute there. The relation with Asterisk, it's one of the oldest we have. We share some developers, some very well-known, like Ole, some guys that contributed Pat, like Klaus, or Torre, that did some commits recently with IPv6. We do have a lot of companies, especially in Kamailio side, that combine the two projects, because Kamailio itself doesn't do any kind of media. So I just listed a couple of them here. You can go in our website and see more. Shipwise could be something that you could just look at it, because it's an open source, out-of-the-box telephony engine with web interface for administration, for and then you have some billing, postpaid, if you want some professional, so all it's open source. If you want professional version, you get like support and SLA and so on. Then third lane, they have Asterisk-based PBX with the Kamailio for scaling a lot. Ole, which is Edwina, does a lot of Asterisk, is very well known here, but actually does also quite a lot of Kamailio. And he was actually first with CP Express router before he got more into the Asterisk. So he's really one of our old guys there. And a lot of other companies providing you solutions, like customized solution in case of me with Asipto, or Klaus, it's more focused on security, for example. Also, EndSwitch, I listed here because he was in the keynote in the morning. They have the option to run their PBX with Kamailio. So we do work very well with Asterisk. And as an example, and I think, if I'm not wrong, it was 2 years ago at Astricon, when Ruben Souza was here and presented that the entire educational network in Portugal is running now on Asterisk and Kamailio. So each site there has a pair of Kamailio and Asterisk, and all together are like 500 pairs running Portugal for the research and universities' infrastructures. So if you just like to be the pilot, don't get your hands dirty with Kamailio, starting point, go in our website, and from there you can find a lot of solutions that make your life easier, and you can just focus on business. To summarize it, practically the difference between Asterisk and Kamailio is, with Kamailio, you actually have to be really involved into it and building it from scratch. And then we give you the full flexibility to go in all directions and go beyond telephony. So telephony is just a use case for Kamailio, and we don't really pay any kind of special attention for telephony. The invite and buy, we route it in the same way as we write message. You can even have your custom requests going through. And many deployments, I'm using custom request messages. So if somehow gets by mistake to Asterisk or something else, they will just reject it, not screw them. So I can use even like request Kamailio, right? So that was from me, and I tried not to have any kind of technical part. It's one of the latest presentation here. I'm sure it was a tough day for you, and I had Klaus and Peter, injecting some of those config file snippets that probably scared many here. But once you get into it, I'm sure you are not willing to go much out. And I could just point one example that we had at Kamailio World. I had one guy coming at my training, and he came at Kamailio World 3 months later, and he said, now their IVR logic is in Kamailio. They use Asterisk only for DTMF collection. So once they get DTMF, they send back a message to Kamailio to get the state. And then if they need, they send it back to Asterisk. So it was one of the craziest use cases, but the guy got that much in Kamailio that I couldn't stop it. Okay, so hope I could shed some light. Sorry if I was not that clear with a bit of jet lag around. But we are at the booth, and you can approach us, and we'll give you more details. Questions? Here? Probably with the other forks. I don't know if they did any other forks meanwhile, because they usually get, from time to time, they like to do another fork. I think they run 2.0 now for like 3-4 years, because that was their goal. Stop using our share code that we had from OpenSCR, and they rewrite everything from scratch. I don't need another C proxy, so I was not really looking that careful at other projects.
Any other type of questions? You know, my own experience, we had before, the reason I got into Asterisk was I joked, I loved phones my whole life growing up, and got involved in a carrier, and we ran Broadsoft, and it took that love and just smashed it, stepped on it, and I hated phones, couldn't deal with it, and I thought there was a better way of dealing with it. I met an Asterisk, fell in love with it. We had it in front of we had an Acme packet in front of the Broadsoft. We started integrating the Asterisk. I was having problems with the Acme packet. It was just, I was having NAT problems. I was having thundering herd issues where it would just cripple the Acme packet. And we fell in love with OpenSARE. And then between OpenSARE and Asterisk, we had a carrier solution running 70,000 endpoints with 0 complaints. Well, you know, 0 legitimate complaints. And, and you run into, it's just a great community. If anyone's been on the mailing list for Asterisk, sometimes it can get a little heated. Sometimes newer people are not treated very friendly, and they end up going maybe to another project. You don't get that in Kamailio. You get an amazing group of people that really want to share knowledge and help you with your, whatever your goals are. And it's a great tool that can help you with your needs, and it's a fun one to integrate with Asterisk. Daniel's a great resource here. You also have Peter, who's on the development team, Klaus. Other people are here as well. And thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you for coming.